Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Nick Newman allowed. He knew about fidelity, treason, and the true cost of keeping secrets, because in his final, blood-soaked moments, Nick uncovers the verity about Matt's most trusted supporter, a verity so monstrous that it'll hang the Newman and Abbott families for times to come, and it all begins on a storm-drenched night when Nick follows a trail of apprehension that has been eating at him for weeks, ever since he noticed subtle cracks in Matt's formerly solid confidence, the way Matt squinched when certain names were mentioned, the way his so-called supporter always sounded to appear at precisely the wrong or right moment, smiling calmly while chaos unfolded around them, and Nick, driven by instinct more than substantiation, decides to defy this supporter alone, ignorant that this decision will bring him his life. The battle takes place in an abandoned storehouse on the outskirts of Genoa City, a place heavy with murk and echoes of once sins, where Nick eventually lays his cards on the table, criminating the supporter of manipulating Matt, of feeding him half-trueness and steering him toward opinions that have fueled the growing war between important families. But the supporter doesn't deny it. Rather, they do commodity far worse. They smile, and that smile chills Nick to the bone as the supporter calmly reveals that Matt was no way meant to win, no way meant to survive this game, because he has always been a pawn in a much larger, more ruthless plan orchestrated times agone. A plan that began with a cover-up involving stolen individualities, illegal medical procedures, and a death that was no way supposed to be discovered, and as Nick presses for answers, demanding to know who really served for Matt's suffering, the supporter eventually lets the mask slip, confessing that they were responsible for sabotaging crucial deals, oohing non-public Newman and Abbott information, and indeed arranging accidents that nearly killed multiple people, all while situating themselves as Matt's protection, his confidant, the one person he believed he could trust. And Nick realizes with horror that this supporter has been totally segregating Matt, turning him against everyone who might expose the verity, including Nick himself. The disclosure hits Nick like a punch to the gut when the supporter admits the most intimidating secret of all, that Matt's supporter was involved in the original incident that destroyed Matt's family times agone. The tragedy that shaped his entire life, meaning Matt has intentionally been standing side by side with the mastermind of his own misery, and Nick, shaken but recalcitrant, pulls out his phone, intimately recording the concession, determined to make sure the verity comes out no matter what. But the supporter notices too late that Nick isn't alone in this fight, that verity has a way of fighting back, and in an unforeseen, violent turn, the battle escalates, a struggle breaks out, and in the chaos Nick is gravely wounded, collapsing to the cold concrete bottom as the supporter flees into the night, leaving Nick bleeding and fading presto, with his strength slipping down. Nick manages to call Victor Newman, his voice weak but critical, and in a heart-stopping exchange, Nick reveals everything: the name of Matt's supporter, the times of manipulation, the crimes hidden behind a friendly face, and the ruinous verity that Matt is in further peril than ever, not just physically but emotionally, because once this secret is exposed, Matt's entire world will shatter, and Victor, generally unshakable, is left speechless as Nick begs him to cover Matt, indeed if Matt hates him for it, because the supporter will stop at nothing to keep the verity buried. As enchantresses wail in the distance, Nick's strength eventually gives out, but not before he whispers one last warning, a nipping memorial that this supporter is far more important and connected than anyone realizes, bedded deep within Genoa City's nobility, able of destroying lives with a single phone call. And also Nick dies, alone on the storehouse bottom, his immolation sealing his fate as both idle and woeful casualty in a war that has only just begun. The fate is explosive as news of Nick's death sends shockwaves through Genoa City, leaving Sharon, Victoria, and Victor shattered with grief, while Matt is consumed by guilt and confusion, unfit to comprehend why Nick was probing his supporter in the first place, until Victor, visited by his pledge to his son, eventually reveals part of the verity, setting off a chain response of rage, denial, and heartache as Matt refuses to believe that the person he trusted most could be able of similar wrong. Yet suggestions begin to surface. bank records, interdicted dispatches, and security footage that sluggishly corroborate Nick's final disclosure, forcing Matt to defy the horrifying possibility that his supporter has been lying to him each on. As the walls near in, the supporter strikes again, trying to frame Matt for crimes Nick exposed, pushing him closer to ruin, but Nick's recorded concession shells at the last possible moment, playing in a packed courtroom and leaving everyone in stupefied silence as Nick's voice echoes from beyond the grave, calmly and easily exposing the intimidating secret that bring him his life. The fallout is ruinous. Alliances deteriorate, adversaries unite, and Matt is left broken, scuffling with the consummation that the person he trusted with his life was the veritably person who destroyed it, while Nick's heritage becomes one of verity, immolation, and unyielding courage, proving that indeed in death, he remains a force to be reckoned with. And as Genoa City mourns, one question lingers in the air like a ghost that refuses to rest. Was Nick's death the end of this agony, or just the morning of an indeed darker chapter in The Young and the Restless? Nick's final breath still echoes through boardrooms, living apartments, and sanitarium corridors, brooding warnings no bone can ignore, starting with Matt, who spirals into a suffocating blend of denial and rage, induced that Nick must have been incorrect or manipulated in his final moments, because accepting the verity would mean admitting that the one person who stood by him when everyone differently misdoubted him was a taradiddle wrapped in a smile. Yet doubt creeps in relentlessly as Matt begins replaying once exchanges, noticing how his supporter always nudged him toward competitions, toward burning islands, toward opinions that accessibly excluded obstacles, and the further Matt remembers, the further repulsing the pattern becomes, especially when Victor, burdened by guilt and grief, hands Matt a sealed envelope Nick left before, containing fractions of substantiation Nick didn't have time to completely crack, partial account figures, cryptic notes, and one nipping line scribbled in Nick's handwriting, "They need Matt alone." And that line shatters Matt's last defenses. Because suddenly everything makes sense, from the rumored dubieties about family to the precisely timed backstabbings that insulated him at his weakest moments. Meanwhile, Sharon struggles to manage with Nick's loss, torn between heartache and fury, because she knows Nick failed doing what he always did: stylish, guarding others at any cost, and her grief transforms into determination as she brigades up with Chance, averring they follow Nick's final trail, no matter how dangerous it becomes, uncovering layers of corruption that stretch far beyond one supporter's treason and into the rotten underbelly of Genoa City's nobility, revealing shell pots, coastal accounts, and a network of influence designed to still abolish people who got too close to the verity. As this disquisition unfolds, Matt's supporter tightens their grip, presenting themselves intimately as a grieving confidant, giving tearful interviews about Nick's woeful misreading, indeed attending the keepsake to stand beside Matt, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder while intimately watching every response, calculating every move, because the supporter knows time is running out, and that Nick's death, rather of silencing the verity, has turned him into a fatality, inspiring people to ask questions they were formerly too hysterical to state. The pressure reaches a boiling point when Victor uncovers evidence that the supporter orchestrated a decades-old medical cover-up involving altered DNA records, explaining how crucial maternity exposures were manipulated to control birthrights and commitment. And this discovery reframes entire family histories, turning old grievances into fresh injuries as characters realize their lives were shaped by falsehoods long before they ever had a choice. And Matt, brazened with this substantiation, eventually breaks, his fury erupting in a raw, explosive battle where he accuses his supporter of destroying his history, his future, and laterally causing Nick's death. But the supporter, chillingly calm, admits only what they must, claiming Nick was an unfortunate casualty in a necessary war, averring that everything they did was to cover Matt from trueness he apparently couldn't handle, a defense so twisted it leaves Matt pulsing with admixture of horror and tone, loathing forever believing it. As Genoa City braces for fallout, the courtroom becomes a battlefield where Nick's voice formerly again rises from the dead through recordings and evidence, exposing the supporters' manipulation in meticulous detail, and the atmosphere turns electric as abetants turn on each other. Former adversaries unite for survival, and the judge listens as decades of secrets unravel in real time. But justice proves fugitive because power does and deteriorate fluently. And just when it seems the supporter will eventually be held responsible, a crucial substantiation disappears, transferring a clear communication that the shadow network Nick advised about is still active and deadly. This exposure pushes Matt to the edge, forcing him to defy the intimidating possibility that Nick's immolation may not be enough to strike what was erected in darkness, and in a hopeless attempt to recognize Nick's memory, Matt decides to do what Nick no way got the chance to finish: go undercover, pretending to attune with his supporter to expose the remaining players, a move that terrifies Victor and Sharon but feels ineluctable because Matt realizes the supporter only ever trusted him when he was eyeless, and now that blindness becomes his disguise. As Matt plays this dangerous game, cracks begin to form in the supporter's countenance, subtle signs of paranoia and control slipping as Matt feeds them misinformation, drawing them out. And the pressure becomes unsupportable when Matt discovers the supporter has been planning an escape, complete with fake passports and a new identity, proving that they no way believed in fidelity, only influence. The climax arrives on the anniversary of the tragedy that first destroyed Matt's family, when Matt lures the supporter back to the same storehouse where Nick failed, defying them under the harsh light of verity and memory. And this time Matt records everything, forcing the supporter to relive their crimes audibly, including their part in orchestrating the incident that shaped Matt's life and their decision to silence Nick when he got too close. And as police enchantresses approach, the supporter eventually snaps, confessing not out of guilt but out of rage, condemning Matt for surviving long enough to come a trouble, a concession that echoes Nick's final warning and cements the supporter's downfall. Yet indeed, with the supporter arrested, the palm feels concave, because Nick is still gone, and the scars he uncovered will no way completely heal, leaving Genoa City ever changed as families mourn not just a man but the vision of safety they formerly believed in. In the final moments of this ruinous bow, Matt stands alone at Nick's grave, brooding in reason for not hearkening sooner, and a pledge to live in a way that makes Nick's immolation mean commodity, while Sharon watches from a distance, gashes in her eyes but pride in her heart, knowing that Nick's topmost heritage was and just exposing an intimidating secret, but inspiring others to choose verity over comfort. Indeed, when it costs everything, and as the camera pulls back on Genoa City under an Argentine, uncertain sky, one nipping verity remains inarguable. Nick Newman may be gone, but the consequences of what he revealed will echo through the young and the restless for generations to come. Nick is going to have a time. He just had surgery on his leg, and now he will have a setback. People think Matt Clark, who some people call Mitch Bacall, is very sneaky. He might be as bad as Jordan Howard. Maybe Matt Clark was able to get from the security that the Abbotts have in place. Is Matt Clark up to his tricks again? Nick Newman needs to be careful, because Matt Clark is not a guy. Nick Newman will have to deal with his leg, and also worry about what Matt Clark might do. Kyle Abbott had his family's security people watch the Newmans. They did this without the Newmans or Matt knowing. The security team kept an eye on the Newmans and their ranch. They were able to catch Matt. Now Jack Abbott thinks he has something that Victor Newman really wants. He calls Victor Newman to make a deal. He tells Victor Newman that they have Matt. Jack Abbott believes that having Matt will give him an advantage when dealing with Victor Newman and the Newmans. Kyle Abbott and his family are using this to their advantage. They want to get what they want from the Newmans. The Newmans and the Abbotts are always trying to outsmart each other. Kyle Abbott and Jack Abbott are working together to get the hand. They are using Matt to try and get what they want from Victor Newman. Jack really wants to show that Victor is using the intelligence that was stolen from Kane Ashby. He thinks Victor is using it to take control of Jabot, and Jack wants his company back. Jack believes his security team can keep Matt from getting. He knows what Matt looks like because he saw him years ago. Jack thinks he knows all the tricks Matt might try. Jack could be wrong about Matt. Even if Victor says okay to the deal and his security team comes to get Matt, Victor does not have a room at his new ranch to hold Matt. He had a room where he kept Jordan, but that was somewhere else. Matt is really good at getting from people. Matt is an expert at giving people the slip. If the two security team members from Abbott had not seen Matt in the zip ties, they probably would not have caught him. Matt made the accident happen with those zip ties that Nick had put on his wrist. Matt managed to get the zip ties enough to get them around Nick's neck, which caused the accident. Matt is an expert at giving people the slip. That is why he was able to get out of the zip ties. Matt had tried to hurt him badly, even though he could have gotten hurt himself. Matt is so desperate that he does not care what happens to him. It would not be surprising if Matt tried to work with Jack and the Abbotts. If Matt found out about the AI software, he might try to make a deal with them and become the person in the middle. The AI software is something Matt would probably try to use to his advantage. Matt could try to use the AI software to help him make a deal with Jack and the Abbotts. Since Jack knows Matt, even with the changes to his face, he will be careful. He will not trust Matt to be the person in the middle. Matt's best chance to get away will be when a trade is made. This is when the Abbott security people will take Matt to Victor. Maybe Matt will try to escape when he goes to the bathroom. Matt's best chance to get away will be when a trade is made. What kind of security guy is really going to take a prisoner into a public restroom and try to help him? I mean, a guy cannot even go to the bathroom with his hands tied up. So they will have to take the handcuffs off Matt's wrists so he can use the restroom. Then they will stand guard outside the door. This is when Matt might see a chance to escape through a window. After that, all Matt needs to do is get to the hospital. When he gets to the hospital, he can disguise himself by wearing doctor clothes like Jordan did. Then Matt just needs to find a way to be alone with Nick. Then he can do his thing, perhaps steal a syringe and some drug and inject him. Kyle was right. Jack shocks everyone by offering Matt to Victor. Kyle Abbott has been on the case since he came back from California. It is cold in Genoa City, Wisconsin, because Kyle Abbott had the people who do security for Jabot watch everything the Newman family does. This is good for the Newman family. Victor Newman will not think so. Kyle Abbott had a feeling about this, and it turned out to be a big deal for the Newman family and for Kyle Abbott. The Newman family is lucky that Kyle Abbott was paying attention. Kyle Abbott was right about what he thought was going on with the Newman family. The Jabot security team found Matt Clark. He was really lucky to be alive after causing a car crash. Then he sneaked away from the woods where Nick Newman was hurt and could not move. Jack Abbott was very happy with his son when he brought Matt to him. This means Jack Abbott has something on the mustache now. The shadow room is all gone now. Matt Clark lost his wife. He had to tell people who he really was. This is not what he thought his life would be like a month ago. That was before Sharon Newman saw him outside the shadow room. Jack knows Matt, so that means Matt did not have any surgery on his face after we saw him last time in GC. That was 25 years ago, when Matt was played by Rick Hurst. Matt had a name, Carter Mills, that Rick Hurst used to trick people a long time ago, but now Matt is using a different trick that Mitch Bacall is helping him with. Mitch Bacall owns a club that Kyle's old girlfriend, Claire Newman, went to with Holden Novak, and Kyle and Claire Newman still really care about each other. Hypothetically, Victor could hedge or delay acceptance and report Matt's capture to the authorities. In that outcome, he could retain the AI program and keep Jack over a soapy barrel. But Jack's proposal to Kane must be leading somewhere. Plus, viewers know that Nikki Newman and Michael Baldwin want to set Kane up to take the fall after they steal the digital tool themselves. It all began when Nick, ever the pious and strategic businessman, allowed. He'd a firm grasp on the rearmost deal that could secure Chancellor Diligence, base in an unpredictable request, only to discover that crucial documents had mysteriously dissolved from his office, leaving him scrabbling, confounded, and furious, the kind of fury that coddled beneath his generally calm surface and hovered to erupt at any moment. And as he paced his extension suite, murmuring under his breath about incapacity, treason, and the ruthless games people played in the Machiavellian world of commercial dealings, he couldn't shake the troubling feeling that someone close to him was pulling strings behind the scenes, someone with intimate knowledge of his routines and sins, and naturally, dubitation. Incontinently turned toward Matt, who, ever since returning to Genoa City after a series of nebulous absences, had been swimming around Nick's sphere like a shadow, his fascinating smile masking intentions no bone. could relatively read, and while Matt appeared outwardly amicable, offering casual updates about his own gambles and ignoring about their participated history, there was an turnabout, subtle yet unmistakable, that suggested a brewing storm, a scheme that could strike Nick's precisely laid plans. And